Hi there, welcome to the channel, welcome back if you're a return viewer. I'm Kerry, you're watching the Christchurch Review of Books, and this is a video I really didn't intend to make. Really, it's off the cuff, impromptu, last minute. Well, the difficult thing I have to relate to you guys is I did not finish a book. I relegated a book to the DNF, the did not finish. Big deal for me. I usually stick with every book that I try and put time into. Just putting time into the book, reading a book seems to be a massive investment for me, so I usually see it to the bitter end, no matter how I feel about the quality of the book. Actually, I try to choose books I think will capture my interest, and this time I tried something different. Little history. About 6 months ago, I was at another job. You've probably heard me refer to it as a job I ended up despising and took a lot out of me with very little return. And as part of that, I was part of a team, a really excellent team. It's the best part of the job. The team they managed to assemble, we were great friends, we bonded, we helped each other, and of course the powers that be decided to do everything in their powers to ruin that little thing we had going. You know, one of my teams was a young lady, you know, almost a third my age, and I mentioned, perhaps foolishly, during one of our team meetings that I did these videos, I did the book reviews, and she asked me really, had I reviewed anything by Sarah J. Maas, and who is a very hot author. I had heard the name, but I knew nothing about her. I had just seen vague references to her, and I sent an email to that young colleague of mine asking for a title. I'd be interested to have a look. I thought I should investigate what this really popular author, see what she was. Well, that colleague didn't actually ever reply, but I decided to look into it myself. I researched, as they say online, the author Sarah J. Maas and her books, and I decided on her supposedly adult-oriented series Crescent City to make my start. She's got a pile of back catalogue of books where apparently aimed at younger people, and Crescent City was her first adult series. And the first book of Crescent Cities is this one, House of Earth and Blood. Came out a few years ago now, very popular. Anyway, sorry, there is something in my mouth which has been very annoying. I'll try not to make this quirk part of the video from here on in. Anyway, now Sarah J. Maas is seen as the leading protagonist in the genre which has become known as romantasy, which, as it suggests, is a mashup of romance and fantasy, and it is incredibly popular at the moment. It's been incredibly popular for about the last 18 months. It is selling like hotcakes, and Maas was like an early herald of this genre, and it is just going crazy. And yeah, it is credited in saving several small to middling publishing houses. Switching gears to publish this type of thing has really saved people's jobs and positions and companies, apparently, going by the rumours. And the main difference, sorry, there goes the mouth again, the main difference in these books from what's gone before is these are very squarely aimed at young women. They are marketed online to young women, they are written for young women, they are very much young women's wish fulfillment fantasies, basically, if we put it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of books out there offering power fantasies for men and people of various ages and genders, I don't know, I say genre, genders, and faiths and beliefs and whatever. You know, books can be for everyone. I have no problem with that, but as has happened in so many cases, once a few books of this genre get popular, everybody sees them successful and everyone gets in the game. Now the shelves in bookstores and online book emporiums, if you might call them, are just full of, where they used to have like science fiction and fantasy, it is 90% fantasy, and 90% of that fantasy is these romantasy books, and you can really tell them apart. They have a very similar cover design. Everyone's copying each other for their covers. They're kind of florid heraldry and line work and colours. they all look the same as each other. You know what they are when you see them on the shelves and on the websites. They're all very much similar. And great. Young women are being marketed these books on social media, on the internet, and they're enjoying them and they're buying them in huge numbers. And it has become a bit of a cliche, I think, already. And, you know, apparently the quality of a lot of the copycats is not great. There are entire YouTube channels which review these things, and a lot of the time they're dismissive of most of the authors, most of the books, most of the series. And yes, series is a big thing, like much of high fantasy or ordinary fantasy. The type of fantasy I grew up reading at high school, I was mad on fantasy, so I played Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. We read books, we read the trasher end of the spectrum, we read the high quality stuff. Books like the Dragonlance Chronicles were our Bibles, basically. We loved that stuff. We ate it up. We read the Belgariads, David Eddings books, Terry Brooks's Sword of Shannara, all that type of thing. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. It has its places. A lot of it's derivative of Tolkien, of course, but, you know, much like that, a lot of these romantic books are derivative of Sarah J. Maas, and she's probably derivative of someone else. That's just how it works, but I decided I'd see what this stuff was like. It was a bold venture for me. I thought, you know, how bad can it be? I'll read it. And like I said, this is the first book in a very long time that I'm marking DNF, did not finish. There are people that are massive fans of this stuff. I'm not going to insult you by saying you're stupid or anything like that. It's just, I found this book was just so turgid, so overdone, so overlaid. I mean, we meet the main protagonist, who's a young woman, I think in her early 20s, called Bryce. She works in some type of art dealer's rooms, and she is part fae. Now that's something that's really annoying me about these romantic books. Every second character that we're supposed to have a viewpoint from seems to be fae, part fae. I mean, it's an overused term. They want really beautiful human beings who are not quite human beings. They're slightly magic, slightly fairy, slightly elf. And so everyone's bloody fae, everyone's part fae, except for the people that aren't. And that's the other side of this thing that really bugged me, is this is a wish fulfillment fantasy of people who want to live in 21st century society, but also live in fantasy medieval type worlds. Because in this Crescent City book, the city in question is like a modern North American city, but it is partially inhabited by magical beings, mythical beings, vampires, werewolves, shape-shifting werewolves. Her best friend Danica at the start is a shape-shifting werewolf who's part of like the local militia type organisation. There are vampires, there are, like I said, there are fae. But they also have cell phones, the internet, nightclubs, cars, taxis, drinks. You know, it's just piled on layer after layer. I mean, it just boggled my mind how baroque this thing was. At the same time, we're following Bryce and her exciting days and nights in the nightclubs and in her job and being oogled by every man, because apparently she's just so incredibly attractive that nobody can describe her in the text without saying how beautiful she is or how shapely she is. Of course, they'll get dismissed for oogling her, but we read endless descriptions of it anyway. And yeah, but nobody is just a simple person in this world. Everyone has ties to a royal family, a great past, or some race that they were part of is now enslaved by another race. Someone who fought in a war 200 years ago and is now enslaved or indebted to somebody else. You know, nobody's an ordinary person in this world. Everyone's got some great backstory, and they all have great tragedies in their backstories, not just one. Bryce herself, I'm not going to ruin anyone's day by saying that her friend Danica, the shape-shifting werewolf I mentioned, gets murdered in the early parts of this book. But this is a great tragedy in Bryce's life, but as the book goes on, we find that tragedy is no stranger to Bryce, or Bryce is no stranger to tragedy. So many years ago she had an accident, so many years ago this happened and that happened. I mean, she'd be a walking bundle of psychosis and neurosis or whatever if this is really, really happening, and to a human anyway. And anyway, the thing that repainted me at the heart of this is actually quite an interesting sort of murder mystery thing. There's some type of strange ancient demon creature that's been let loose in this city and is killing people, including her friend Danica, and we want to know what that happens. It did intrigue me. I want to know why, how, where, but it's just, like I said, it just piles on the crud in this book. There's just so much. I mean, Danica's not an ordinary person. She's related to the royal family who's part of the house of blah, 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 blah. And of course, she's got a father-in-law or father or half-father who's the king, and her brother's some strange mystical playboy from half Feyland, and Jesus Christ, it goes on forever. Sorry about the religious tones there. Yeah, it's just, and I only got up to chapter 27. There are 90-something chapters in this ebook version, so I'm about a third way through, and it just really was too much for me. It was just too much to take in. I mean, the story was just starting. The actual romance part of the romantasy hadn't even begun, but I could see they were setting it up. An angel, you know, angels are another race in this fantasy world, apparently, and they fought in some war against some oppressive and been enslaved and blah, blah, blah. And an angel's been assigned to look after Bryce as part of the investigation into the murder of her friend when another murder takes place, which seems similar. So they think the murderer, the being, the entity, what he was doing is hitting people on purpose because of blah, 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 blah. So Bryce is given this angel as like a bodyguard, and he's going to protect her, and of course they have a certain attraction, and they insult each other and argue and bicker, but you know, they're going to get together. And 36% of the way book through, they haven't got together. They're still antagonists to each other, but you know what's going to happen, and I just gave up. I just devoted so much time to this book, trying to get into this book, and I just thought, there's a simple story there. There's something could have been told with a lot less incrustations into the story, but it's me. I'm me reading this. This is a wish fulfillment fantasy for young women, apparently, and obviously I don't share what they want, and what they want is all this stuff, apparently, layer upon layer of stuff. And I know there is a lot of women online who don't like this type of thing, and they just see this as horrible and cliched and quite demeaning. And yeah, so I won't write it off completely. There's something in this book. She knows how to tell a story, but she doesn't know how to tell a story in a way I like it. I thought she just could not get to the point. There's just so many layers, so many backstories. And this is just first of a 3-volume series, and this book is massive, probably 800-900 pages perhaps, and you know, there's another 2 volumes before the story ends, and who knows what happens to Bryce. Great tragedies, no doubt, ensue, and great romance and so on. The thing is, did not finish, will not finish, do not care. That is quite radical for me. I usually finish when I start, but just this took up way too much time when I was trying to get through a lot of upheaval in my life, and I just don't have the heart to go back to it. So that is Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City, Book 1, House of Earth and Blood. Did not finish, do not care to go back to it. Okay, so that is your surprise video for Sunday, the 8th of September. It's a nice spring day. I hope you enjoyed the video. I've had quite a week, and I have capped it off by doing a video I wasn't expecting, a little more emotional than I was expecting, but I think I got my feeling across, so we'll see you next time. Cheers.